everybody, welcome to Blue Goose Garage. I've got a few videos that I have started making and then changed my mind on or whatever. Ended up not posting them, not finishing them. And I don't want to just delete them. So I'm going to put them all in this video. And after that ends, I'll talk to you about it a little bit more. So, here we go. Story time. I know some of you like these and some of you don't. Anyway, when my uncle had this car, I changed the oil in it every year for him around Christmas. So that would put it, the last time I did it for him, in December 2009 for Christmas. After I got it together for Danny, I changed it for him a couple times, but most of the time Danny did his own oil changes. The car doesn't really seem to use much now, if any. I figured I'd go ahead and do my tradition and give it a yearly oil change. Basically using the same kind of oil that I used to run when Harvey had the car. Car holds 3 3/4 quarts of oil. I bought 3 new. I'm going to show you what I'm going to run for the 3/4 quart. Pennzoil Multi-Vis 10W40. And you know this is an old one because of the way it is. But let me explain to you why I'm running the cheap oil and I'm running this stuff. That engine has a lot of miles on it. Has a lot of varnish inside of it. I'm sure that the carbon around the rings is probably the only thing actually sealing the cylinders up. If I was to run good oil in that engine, and there's really nothing wrong with Coastal, but I mean, if I was to run good synthetic Mobil 1 or something in that car, it would go from using a little bit of oil to a lot of oil. So I'm giving it an oil change more for the bearings and stuff than I am to actually clean anything. It is December 20th, 2024. Currently here, 28 degrees. That's 28 degrees Fahrenheit. So that's a couple degrees below 0 Celsius. It wouldn't be that bad, but the wind's blowing. And I hadn't cranked my Metro since the day before yesterday. So, you know, kind of cold start. Let's see how it does. Not bad. Really not bad for the miles. I drove it to town to the gas station. I want to fill it back up with gas. And then I'm going to drive it around a little bit and go home. I've driven this car 1,000 miles. In that 1,000 miles, I really probably should have recorded more of this, but I've done some experimentations to see what kind of gas mileage this car actually had towards the end. 30 miles per gallon for a Metro. It's terrible. But it didn't have a thermostat. The car had a lot of weight in the back of it. It was doing what it could do. It got 30 miles per gallon. I changed some things and put a thermostat in it and put a set of struts in the front of it, did an alignment. I gained 10 miles per gallon and went to 40 miles per gallon. I said this in a previous video that we once upon a time put Berryman B12 in a PT Cruiser that had a burn valve. And while it had that burn valve, that would make it run on 4 cylinders. Well, I didn't buy Berryman, I bought AutoZone Shop Pro or whatever. put half a bottle in a full tank of gas, drove 150 miles, filled it back up with gas, and got 45 miles per gallon. So it gained 5 miles per gallon. So altogether it gained 15 miles per gallon versus where it was. But 5 miles a gallon, and the only thing I changed was fuel injector cleaner. That convertible, even with a rebuilt engine, driving it the same way I was driving this car, only got 43 miles per gallon. This one got 45. And it's wore out. So something's wrong with the computer in that car. I know this car got 53 miles per gallon back in 2011. It went down from 53 miles per gallon to 29. And I got it back up to 45 miles per gallon just by tinkering with a few things. So I want to try to get over 50 miles per gallon with an engine that's wore out. I'm just really not wanting to rebuild this engine. I'm wanting to see what it can do with what it's got. Let's talk about the oil change. I went ahead and did that. I didn't record any of it. I honestly did not feel very good, and I still don't. But it was important enough to me to go ahead and change the oil. It was nasty. This engine has some kind of stabilizer in it because it was slimy, kind of like a tackiness to it. Like Lucas, or STP, something like that, maybe No Smoke. I think it's No Smoke because we got the opportunity to go through his garage and pick out some things, and he had quite a bit of that in there. So that's really not a good idea for a Metro engine, but somehow or another it didn't affect this one. Maybe he was running thinner oil and would use that to thicken it up a little bit. I don't know, but it makes them burn valves. If you run thick oil in these engines, it'll burn an exhaust valve. And that don't make sense, but that's what it does. Never run thicker really than 1040. And that's if you live in Florida or something. Around here, 1030 is too thick, but that's what I'm currently running. It somehow reduced the amount of blow-by. It also somehow seemed to make it run better. None of this stuff that I'm changing makes any sense to me on why it would start running better. Unless maybe it did kind of clean the rings a little bit, and maybe somehow they came back a little bit. I can't imagine that would actually do it because there can't be any ring tension left in those rings. Either way, maybe the valves are working right. It's running better. I'm happy. Hopefully it doesn't start smoking, but I do have a set of rings. I hate to do that, but I do have a set of rings. The real issue on why I don't want to do that is there's no way those pistons aren't cracked, and there's no way that the ring lands are good. So it would have to have a set of rods and pistons. And finding a set of stock Metro rods and pistons in 2024 is pretty difficult, unless you took apart a running engine. And even they might be cracked. So there's that. And the fuel mileage thing. Somehow or another, which I understand putting a thermostat in it will help mileage. It will make it run leaner. So that 10 miles per gallon makes sense. And as far as the fuel injector cleaner goes, you can have your own belief on that. I've seen it do this before. I don't understand how that works. It's not that it actually cleans the fuel injector. It just seems to make it run better, like it burns quicker. Like I said down there in the video, it punches the pistons harder. Maybe between the oil change and the fuel injector cleaner, maybe it's cleaned the pistons a little bit, and maybe they did come back around. Highly unlikely, but maybe. The reason it's unlikely is this thing got so hot twice that it blew a head gasket. I didn't put rings in it. There can't be any tension in them. Maybe you don't need ring tension. Alright, so I don't know if you can see it. I developed a water leak, and most of it has dried back off. it's still kind of wet, but the upper radiator hose that was on this car was an original hose, and the distributor on this car leaks oil right down on the top radiator hose, and it had a spring clamp on the thermostat housing. So that spring clamp had tightened up to the point that it couldn't go any tighter, and the hose was loose. And after about 600 miles of me driving it, it started getting a little bit wet. Well, I left it alone, and when it got colder, I got home one day and smelled antifreeze, and it was all over everything. If it ain't between Danny getting it hot, it tries to burn up with me driving it. But I put a different used hose on it, and everything's drying up. Oddly enough, that hose is wet now. So I'm wondering maybe if it's coming through it too. I may have to put a lower hose on it. But it's running better. It's running okay. I can't really complain about any of that. Anyway, I hope you guys enjoyed the video. Hopefully, maybe you got something out of this. Maybe you didn't. You'd have to watch it to the end to get it anyway. But I want to thank you for watching, and I'll see you again next time. Bye.